Are you in danger of becoming a boomerang kid? Boomerang kids. It's the new thing. Everyone's doing it. At least you hope not you, right? What is a boomerang kid? A boomerang kid is an adult age child who has left the house, lived independently, and now has found their way back to living with mom and dad. And if you know young adults, ages over age 18, who have gone to college and have now had to move back home, most of them don't want to be there. So if that's you, or if you're worried that's about to be you, this video, this live is for you. Welcome back to The Wealth Technique. My name is Michael Baker, and today we're talking about boomerang kids. The technical definition of a boomerang kid is a child that has an adult age child that has left the home and has now returned back to live with at least one, if not both parents. Hence the name Boomerang Kids. Now, I know that I want to be sensitive on this topic because I do understand that there are lots of things that indeed do happen. I do want to be sensitive on this topic because I do understand that there are lots of things that can happen that force people to going back into the house when they don't want to be. They don't want to be there. And let's dive into a few ideas on what goes wrong, what happens, and how you might be able to plan and avoid having to move back home with mom and dad. Now, for me, as a financial planner, I think, this is my opinion, that most of this happens from the idea of how we choose college. Now, bear with me. I think college should be a business decision. I know a lot of families that choose college based upon where the kids really want to go to school. Or maybe there's a favorite college or university that you love as a family, and then that's where we want our kids to go because we love the college, we love the university, and we really want that college experience. My question is, what's the role of college? What's the point? Is the point of college to have a really amazing college experience? Or is the role of college to prepare you to go out into the world and have an employable set of skills so that you could join the workforce or begin on a career path or career trajectory? If the goal of college is to have an amazing 4-year, or actually, if you look at the data, 5-year college undergraduate experience, if that's the goal, then go crazy, go wild, have a blast. But then don't be surprised if we're not as prepared to enter the workforce. But if the goal is to be equipping yourself with education, skills, a network of friends and peers that you could go into and try to start leapfrogging into the workforce, right? If that's the goal, then in my view, I think we should be trying to find the most strategic and the most affordable path into college, right? So I believe it starts there with our college decision. Before that, I think you should be also thinking about the field of study. What do you want to do? Do you have any idea? And if you don't have any idea, that's okay. That's okay. There are great 2-year schools where you can go and get college level courses that are sometimes low cost or even possibly free, no cost, while you try to figure some things out. So if you don't know what you want to do, the last thing I think you should be doing is going to a school where you're paying top dollar for tuition, or worse, you're borrowing to pay top dollar for tuition, and you have no idea if that school even offers the programs that you will ultimately decide you want to do. So I think you need to think about the field of study, what you believe you would like to do. If it's business, if it's something involved in medicine, if it's in the engineering field, if it's in a STEM field. These are the conversations you should be having with your parents, or as parents having with your kids when they're in high school, to try to start making wise choices on what schools you want to target for a college education. Because if we go to school, we want to be making a strategic choice for where we go to school. And if we're going to have to borrow, we're going to have to use debt to get there. We want to make the best use of our debt. Here's a great example when it comes to field of study. A lot of students will have to borrow to go to college because the cost of college is absolutely insane. And so many families are forced to using debt to go to school. That's not terrible. But what you should be thinking about when you're looking at debt is, will I be able to go into a field or go into a career path where I actually have a chance at paying this debt off with my earning potential? And you can research different jobs. You can research different career paths and find out like what the pay scales look like. And does it make sense for you to be borrowing extensively to go to school? For example, I did a quick Google search before I jumped on this live, and one of the lowest returns on income or salary, or however you would phrase it, but from a college major standpoint, it said early childhood education as a college major had some of the lowest earning potential for people coming out of school with that major. So to me, it doesn't make sense to go to a top dollar school and borrow huge amounts of student loan debt, use huge amounts of student loan debt, if your major is going to be early childhood education. I don't see how you ever get those loans paid off unless you get employed and you go into the loan forgiveness program, which even then it takes years. And from what I hear, those programs aren't run very efficiently. Now, if you're going to go into medicine, if you're going to go into a field of study where your earnings potential can be uncapped or can be extremely high, maybe using debt wisely is a viable option for that. So I think you need to think about field of study because that will help you determine where you go to college. And then once you have ideas about where you might want to target for school, we want to target those schools where we can get scholarships, grants, work study programs. How do we make it as affordable as possible? Because the goal should be to get out of college and ready to go, ready to join the workforce and have the ability to maximize your earnings potential. Now, money skills. This is something that I believe many people don't think about, but I want you to start thinking about it, especially if you're still in high school or if you're still in college, or you're about to graduate. If you're in that age band where you're thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Start working on your financial literacy. Get buttoned up on spending plans, budgeting, how you use your money, how you make financial decisions. Read financial blogs, read financial literacy books. Get yourself tuned up on how to make good financial decisions. Learn about interest rates, learn about how credit cards and how debt works, because most of this stuff is barely touched on in your early childhood education, like K through 12. It is barely touched on. You might have a course or two in school, but most people still learn the majority of their financial skills from their parents in the home, which you're trying to get out of. So you need to start working through building your own money language library or dictionary so you can understand different financial terms, but also building your money skills. Do you work in school? If you don't, I suggest get a job and start trying to think about how you balance going to school and having a part-time job. Because when you get into the workforce, you're going to have to balance all different types of things. You might have to have a job and a part-time job to make ends meet. And that's hard. I will completely concede that is hard, but sometimes it's necessary. And you need to have the ability to learn how to balance, and you need to have the ability to learn how to live on a budget and watch your spending and understand how to be thrifty if you need to be. Okay. So start brushing up your money skills. Decision making. This is another life skill. It is one of those things that we can always be working on, how we think through things, how we make better decisions. It's a skill that everyone can improve on because we are all limited. We have our limited life experiences. We have limited things that we've learned through those experiences. We have a limited vocabularies. All of us are at different levels of ability when it comes to decision making. But this is something that you can always think about. There's a famous economist. His name is Thomas Sowell. And Thomas Sowell says that one of his quotes is that there are no solutions, only trade-offs. And if you think about economics, essentially your personal economics is like the science of choosing. You have limited resources. How do you allocate those resources? How do you make choices? So when you think about a big economy like the United States economy, that's tremendous. But most people are worried about their micro economy, like the kitchen table economy. And the way that I encourage you is to get better at decision making. Put yourself into situations where there are trade-offs and think through the decision that you would make and try to understand, like, okay, this is the choice I'm making now. Why am I making that? Is it something that because it reflects your values? Are you subject to certain constraints, meaning like you can't afford certain things, so you have to choose an alternative? These are all skills that you will have to continue to rely on as your life gets more robust, as it gets more financially complex, as you start a family. So start working on your ability to make good decisions. Now, that may sound a little bit weird, but I bet you if you think right now, you probably have one or two friends in your life that you think make terrible decisions. Am I right? So if you can identify people that you know that you think they make bad choices, why do you feel like those choices are bad or suboptimal or not great choices? This is what I mean when I'm talking about working on your decision-making skills. Get really grounded in knowing yourself and your values and how you make decisions. And the last piece I'm going to talk about is understanding jobs versus a career. One of the things that comes up a lot when I talk with younger people, or I hear interviews with younger people, or I read social media posts is this. A lot of younger people, in my view, have this idea they're going to come right out of college and immediately find their dream job and immediately get on the career path that they envision for themselves. And sometimes that happens, but sometimes it doesn't happen, at least not right away. That's no reason to be discouraged. Sometimes you actually just have to get a job. And it's not a job that you want. It's not the job that you would have daydreamed about when you were in college thinking what life was going to be like post-graduation. But it's the job that's available, and it's the job that is open right now. And one of the things that I believe you can do is when you have a job, you actually are still learning skills. You have to learn how to work with bosses. You have to learn how to work within the constraints or the expectations of whatever that job may be. And it gives you an opportunity to excel, even at something that you may not care about, but it gives you an opportunity. So understand that you may have to get a job. It's not your career. It's not something that you dream about doing, but it will help you pay the bills and allows you to build experience, build your network, and continue to look for that next opportunity or that door to open for you to get into the career that you really, really want to have. I understand that a lot of times, some of the reasons that Boomerang kids have to come back to their house is the rent is too high where they want to live, or they have too much student loan debt, or something has happened unexpected and it's kind of forced you off of your path. And I realize that a lot of times some of these things may happen and they weren't on our plan. I get that. But when I talk about understanding how to be strategic with college, do your homework on your field of study. Again, if you want to be a teacher or something like that, I believe that that is a tremendously noble profession. But you should use debt very wisely when it comes to getting into education, because you can do the research and see what those pay scales look like. It doesn't make sense to be in debt up to your eyeballs if you don't have a career path that could possibly pay it back with any type of expediency, right? That makes a lot of sense to me. So think about your career choices. What are the best schools to help you do that? And then when we find a school, how do we get strategic? Make that school affordable. How do we bootstrap our way? Because I believe, again, this is my philosophy, the purpose of college is to prepare you for the next step, becoming independent and joining a career or joining the workforce. Not a 4-year paid vacation at a cool resort where you go to class sometimes. Okay. Next, the rent is too high. Roommates. Like, I get it. Like, you had roommates in college. You dealt with people. You don't want roommates when you're an adult now. But sometimes roommates are necessary. So I encourage you to look for roommates. Look for people that are also like you, that aren't looking they're not looking to extend their experience years from college, but they're looking to get into the workforce. They're looking to get independent. But right now, we need kind of a collective, collaborative effort to afford the rent so we can live where we need to live, so we could do the jobs that we need to have. And then lastly, I do understand that sometimes life throws you a curveball, or you're making a big pivot or a big shift and you have to get back to ground zero. And, living with the parents is something that you have to do. That's okay. I still want to encourage you as well. Make a plan, have a plan for getting out. Don't just get home and say, okay, I'm going to figure this out. No, get to work on figuring it out immediately. Get yourself into a place where you can be held accountable. All right. So remember, being a Boomerang kid doesn't have to happen to you if you plan and you think about it strategically and get prepared well in advance. Thank you for the time. If you like this video, if it made sense to you, give us a like, or drop an idea in the comment section here. Let me know your ideas on how to avoid becoming a Boomerang kid. And with that, we'll see you next time.